And just like that, we are back with chapter 76 of the universe according to Mugsy. Today is Friday, July 11, 2025. I am Mugsy the Creator, returning to you after a brief hiatus. More relaxed from a vacation with my wife up in Burlington, Vermont, where I found the perfect opportunity to explore a little whodunit. What happened to the city of Burlington, Vermont over the last few decades? What is it now? What has it become? And as always, we will use the current events that are playing out before us to try and climb the ladder into the culture, understanding that the culture creates those current events and our individual consciousness is the only contribution we have over that culture. Burlington, Vermont is the perfect place to explore all of those aspects because they are two sides of a coin, but they are only selling one. They are only selling one for certain because in my mind, the state of Vermont, driving up there, completely ignorant, the same way I like to lead my life regularly, in the dark, using nothing but my energy to feel my way through my experiences. I naively thought it was nothing but farmers markets and maple syrup. That was what I had in my mind. And as we're driving up there, after the long weekend, July 4th, up to Burlington, Vermont, I see nothing but green trees and rolling hills. As we get up into the mountains, it is gorgeous. Montpelier, I thought we were going to be able to stop for lunch, but there's nothing but a handful of semi-permanent structures. I call them semi-permanent because I am not sure anything other than the Capitol building is the thing that stays in Montpelier full year round, because there is really nothing until you get to this tiny town, which is New York City for anyone in Vermont, filled with 44,000 people, an additional 13 when the college is in session. But I am up there in the middle of July, hopefully to get some peace and quiet with my wife for some woods recreation, maybe take a little stroll out there on the causeway that is Lake Champlain, which divides Vermont from New York State. Oh, it is so beautiful, and that is what I found as we got into town, but there was a lot that they weren't selling. There was so much to be explored, and we're going to get into it all. I promise we're going to get into it all because my Bernie Sanders, we are just here out for the common people, the millionaires. Oh, wait, he changed that. He changed that over the years. Now he says billionaires because my guess is Bernie Sanders' beautiful house there, which I have to imagine is close to Lake Champlain, has to be up into the millions now, and that is truly the diverse nature of everything that's going on. They let you know that you are divided as soon as you get into town. There are flags, racial flags, flags of different countries, rainbow flags. We got Palestine flags. We got trans flags. There are so many flags as I'm driving into town. And there's beautiful, like buildings that are, they must be so old from the 1800s, preserved clearly. Ethan Allen's name's on a whole bunch of things in town. Right next to buildings that look like they were firebombed. And there's just such an obvious class diversity walking up and down. It reminds me so much of Salem. What I am finding is so much of my home everywhere that I go. This little city of Burlington, right on the corner of a college town, is much like my Essex Street. They got a church street where everyone congregates and all the tourists come into town, and there's also a level of homeless people. Oh, interesting. There's a level of poverty and homeless people as you walk up and down this street, but unlike Salem, where the homeless people are asking for money because there's a clear industry of tourism for there to be people to request dollars from, this almost seems like these people are out there on the street talking to themselves in another dimension. Now, that would be revealed to me as we started making our way through, but that was not exactly what we were going to start out doing. So, the people at Hotel Vermont, what a charming, beautiful little boutique hotel right there on Lake Champlain. It was so nice. It reminds me of what my life used to be like when people used to try and give me their best energy. It's amazing. being in the hospitality industry myself, working as a waiter in the tourist town of Salem, Massachusetts, I forget what it's like to be on the other side of that coin. When you walk into those doors and those people greet you like you are the one. They are here to see, happy, giving you all of their energy and their excitement. Are you ready for a vacation? You're damn right, buddy. I'm ready for a vacation. What are we here to do? I don't know what I'm here to do. Can you point me in the right direction? Yes. How about you go for a bike ride on the causeway of Lake Champlain? So that was the first thing me and the wife did. The next day we went out onto the causeway, a beautiful bike ride. It was so pretty. It was so gorgeous. There's all these little neighborhoods that you go through right on the water, and they do not seem to be the $1 million neighborhoods that we might have thought they would because of such the picturesque nature of everything that surrounds you in this beautiful city of Burlington, Vermont, such a tiny little city of 44,000 people. The sprawling nature of it, its ability to be spread out on this hill, which was something that I remembered. Whether it was college friends back in the day or comedians that were there to play Burlington, I remember everything is just slightly up a hill. Everything's just slightly downhill and everything's just slightly uphill. And in the middle of July, that's not a problem. But I can see immediately how that would start to become an issue as things got icy. And from what I remember, the last time I went snowboarding at Mount Killington, they get snow all year round, and it's a lot of it, so I can imagine those roads are tough to navigate in the wintertime. And I was having myself a chuckle as I was sweating inside that humidity, checking out just the beautiful nature that they have. Oh my God, that causeway runs right from like the hotel downtown area all the way into these little islands that are in the center of Lake Champlain, and there's people that are running and walking and bike riding out across them. It was gorgeous. Maybe I'll find a way to include some pictures here in this podcast. And the food. Oh, the food was some of the best cuisine I've ever dined on. And what I mean by that is the quality. The quality of the ingredients was the best that I've ever gone to in terms of large-scale restaurants, so tightly, densely packed together, all using farm-fresh ingredients. Local meat from local farms, like right up the road, some of it coming down like from the Canadian border in Montreal. Fresh cheese everywhere. Maple syrup was their sweetener in a lot of the dishes. Everything impeccable, fresh-made pasta. I couldn't believe I could get all of these things in such a small town. So from that perspective, the city of Burlington was really unparalleled in terms of any city I've been to, including New York City, including Cambridge, Massachusetts, and all the East Coast, even Bar Harbor, Maine, Portsmouth, all of these, Gloucester, all of these towns that claim to be so fresh. It was Burlington, Vermont. That was truly everything that encapsulated was the walk. They were walking the fucking walk. In every breakfast facility that I went into, I got a fresh egg cracked from a fucking farm down the street, and it was using Vermont Cabot cheddar that they made right up the street, using pork from pigs that were slaughtered right up the street on bread that they made in-house. That is something you don't find. You're lucky if you get a couple of those places. And all the buildings and the storefronts, a lot of the restaurants were like old garages. So the front was this window that you would roll down from the ceiling, and they had fresh pastries everywhere. Was making buttermilk biscuits. I had one of the best biscuits. I lived in the South. I live below the Mason-Dixon line, where everyone talks about the biscuits and gravy all day long. Everyone tries their best. They try their very best to capture what the people of Burlington, Vermont are doing at the Mount Philo something or other restaurant and farm garden. Right outside Mount Philo, there's a farm, and they have a restaurant. You need to go there because the food is that good. Everything they're doing is so perfect. There needs to be some sort of balance because that's how life works. Of course, there must be some sort of energetic balance. So, I mean, the wait staff inside the restaurants were some of the least respectful. We're not asking for a lot here. You don't have a deep tourist industry. From what I see, the weekends are where things start to pop off and farmers markets begin to come into town, and there is some things that go on the streets where these homeless people may be able to beg for cash. But most of the week is an empty shop-lined street where most of the people can't afford the things in the area to buy to keep those businesses in business. I was surprised at the chains and how no one was going into the chains. I guess that is to be expected, because why would you go into any chain restaurant when you have such unbelievable farm fresh dining? But what surprised me is why they can't get any wait staff to just treat you like a human being. Everyone was so out to lunch, and perhaps it was the 27 pot shops that I went by. They only legalized marijuana in Vermont 3 years ago. I made sure I asked that question in a couple of the pot shops that I checked out, but there was so much of it. So much, so fast that industry popped up. And perhaps it has overtaken the minds of some of the people working inside the businesses, because it was hard to even get a drink or a check or have someone treat me like a human being. Try and ask a question about the area and some of the things that I should do. It felt like the whole week, except for the people in the Vermont hotel. A Hotel Vermont. I think those are two different ones. It was Hotel Vermont. I wrote it down. Hotel Vermont. They were so nice and charming, and I think perhaps it will be revealed to me later in the week as to why I wasn't receiving the hospitality that I thought one might get in such a charming area, because it really was so charming and beautiful, but something must balance this out. They've been sold a lot of things in that area. They've been sold a lot of things. It just doesn't make sense. When I come into a town, because I've spent so much time inside of these tourist towns just poking around and observing the energy and the way that it flows, it doesn't make sense to me that the homeless per capita are such a high percentage of the overall demographic base. That didn't make sense. But I kept walking by that bus station, and there were people coming back and forth on buses, and I was just so wondering where those people were coming from. Because I drove 3.5 hours from Boston, Massachusetts to Burlington, Vermont. 3.5, 4 hours. I didn't see a hell of a lot. I almost saw nothing. In fact, when I saw things, they stuck out so much to me that I was like, oh, we must be in a state capital. You're right, we're in Montpelier. The next time something stuck out to me, oh, that's the University of Vermont. We must be in Burlington. Those are the 2 times I was in Vermont and something stuck out to me that I noticed. So where are all you homeless people coming from? And it was a different level of homeless, because there was almost no interest in getting money from the people on the streets. It was almost as if they were there to be a hindrance, a nuisance, and in some way report. Because I notice when people are checking in. These are the things that while I'm sitting out there smoking a joint of the finest Vermont organic, live soil grown weed that they had, I'm noticing that all these homeless people know each other. And they'll check in from time to time. If you're paying attention, you're looking for an exchange, which I did not see go on. But I did see them almost rotate in a rotation up and down Church Street, reporting to certain individuals if you are paying close enough attention. There are also a wild amount of people having conversations with inanimate objects as if there is a deep drug problem entrenched in the area. But my quandary with this playing out in the current events in front of my eyes as I walk up and down that street is usually there's some sort of business associated with it. Gloucester, Massachusetts, for all the fishing, money that moves around, would you believe that they also have a drug problem? It's because it's a port that drugs also move in and out of. But Burlington does not seem to be a hub for drug travel. In fact, it seems to be directly the opposite of everything everyone moved to Burlington, Vermont for. The peace of nature, the health of eating a clean, healthy, vegan diet. Many vegans were up there, many tree huggers. Why would these people also be getting themselves invested in some smack and finding themselves on the street? Where do they even have the money or the relationships to be able to score? There is no casino in town. There were no prostitution rings that were evident to me that I would also be looking for. There's no high rollers. There's nothing to drip off, right? Where's the drip coming from? It has to be from some industry, from something. There's so much ski money that comes into town that these people wash out for the summertime up on a hill, try and find something to eat. But that was the thing. They weren't hungry. They weren't hungry either. Why was that? Because I hear them talking. I hear them talking about having a full belly, and the meals that they had sounded impeccable. Veal something. So this is very well fed, somewhat interdimensional travelers, because they're in another dimension. They're also homeless out on the street, but they're in a community that keeps each other safe, and they're reporting back to something or someone. Jesus Christ, the things that you can learn. The things that you can learn just poking around, observing the interactions of everything that's going on. And the best restaurants that I found were on the outskirts of town, which never surprises me. The places that I found the most locals going were the breakfast shops right on the edges, the outskirts of that downtown Burlington district. Although I must say the food was impeccable everywhere. I couldn't believe you can't get regular waiters to come in there and do that job. There's got to be somebody that can then hold it together enough to move people through that restaurant. The same way that the staff treated me at the Hotel Vermont. Oh, I landed that plane. What else did we do? What else did we see? We went up to Mount Philo, which, as I took it, was the easiest hike in the area. And there were so many kids on little class day trips, and it was the views that I was looking for. Just the drive out to Mount Philo, all of the little farms that I expected to see on my drive in, which was really on the highway through the mountains. This allowed you to get into the little nitty-gritty and see the towns and the breweries that were actually in the area and the actual farms where the cattle live, and most of these local farmers that come in with their produce to the farmers markets in town are coming from. So beautiful. So beautiful. And perhaps that was the most of what I thought Vermont was going to be. That was also where we found the little farm and that beautiful little restaurant. That was where we brushed up with the shoulders of the people that I expected to try and find, the rich of the rich, because we could get a reservation at every restaurant in town. There must be rich people around me somewhere in these houses that are eating at different restaurants that I don't have access to. And we stumbled into one which was not on the internet, that was down there. I said it, Mount Philo something farm. You couldn't get reservations for at least another week, which is always a good sign. And just the sandwiches that we got on our way out the door were the best ham sandwiches that I had ever eaten in my entire life. Everything from scratch. And that was really the opportunity that I got out there. But then when we came back, interesting. I am such a masochist. As soon as I get to spend a little time with Tom Segura or Christina Brzezinski, they are going to see me so authentically for who I am as a masochist, someone who just likes to just surround themselves with the hatred, because that really was the other side of the coin. I went on a vacation trying to get away from this little tourist town to another tourist town, but specifically a tourist town that hates one individual. In fact, it is what unites everyone in that town, from their rainbow flags to their trans parties, to their nightlife, to probably the way that I was treated by the people that I interacted with. I am a white heterosexual male. And that is offensive to the way that most of the people in the city of Burlington are trying to lead their lives. It gets in the way of a lot of the things that they're doing, because I am, as an individual, leading my life in the way that I choose, walking in an area near them that is very offensive to them. In fact, if I want to be doing that, I must also be praising their lifestyle, is the way that it felt. I got that feeling generally the entire time that I was up there. If I was not making an effort to consciously acknowledge whatever it was that you had going on that was different, that was a different hair color, a different hairstyle, streaks running through your hair, maybe it's very clear you're on testosterone because you got these really hairy arms and you got some tits hanging around. Whatever it was, there were people that were getting by maybe a little better than me socially because they were acknowledging these things and they were being very supportive. And that's just something coming from Boston. We are bred out of us is to not notice things about people, because we come from a generation of people that are adult children of alcoholics. We can stay in our own lane, okay? We can keep our eyes closed and you can live in your own little fantasy land over there, but not in Burlington, Vermont. Burlington, you got to participate. You got to participate in the fantasy. If you are not participating in the circus at all times, you need to find your way out of here. And there was so much underlying, so much anxiety that you can feel everywhere that you go. And I was having so much trouble because I didn't understand the stem or what it rooted from, and that was the root chakra. I wouldn't find this out. I wouldn't find this out until I was lucky enough to go to the Vermont Comedy Club for an open mic night. You know, I'm on vacation. I feel at home in a comedy club, especially at an open mic night, just like why I was saying Christina Pajitsky and Tom Segura will understand why I'm such a masochist. It's you have to be a psychopath to find this group of particular psychopaths and like relax and like let a breath of air out and be like, finally, all right, I can hide. Or I can just be myself. I can feel at home and let my hair down and put my feet up. A comedy club, the one place where I should get some just respect for understanding the art form and the things that are required to do the art form and the self-reflection and the writing, and even stylistically, there's a couple different choices you can make when you get on that stage and you hold that microphone. You can become a different character. You can tell a story. You can try and put someone through this hypnotic exercise, which is what a lot of the best comedians in the world are doing in their own particular way. Bill Burr, who I've been such a fan of for so long, has this tendency to dig himself in a hole and bring you with him on the way down in that hole and make the room real uncomfortable for a moment and then take you on a wild roller coaster ride you can't believe that you are also on as he climbs himself out of that hole and makes you realize you were standing in that hole actually the whole time. It's phenomenal to see in real time. And I like to travel the country and find these random rooms of psychopaths being themselves. And thank God my wife convinced me that this was something we had to do. That we had to do. Like, what else are we doing? We went to see Jurassic Park at a drive-in movie the night before. We were going to hang out at the hotel. We decided to head out for an open mic night. I could not believe the things that people were so comfortable saying on stage in front of a microphone. So united in so much of what they were saying, signaling socially to the crowd at points when they're on stage, just taking a moment to shout out to all the loners out there, shout out to all the people that like to spend time themselves, shout out to all the depressed, suicidal folks out there. It was just a weird thing. We're in the middle of a comedy club where you're trying, at most places that I go, you're trying to make people laugh. You're trying to take some sort of insight from something you noticed that you thought was funny. Maybe you're the only one that thought it was funny. Maybe everybody thinks it was funny. That's the ride that you're supposed to take me on. You're supposed to do this thinking before you get on stage with the microphone and just got, but it's what most people do. Most people just get out there and start blurting things out. There was two gentlemen, that put together a coherent set. One young kid from the college, the University of Vermont, I think he said he was a psychologist. He was making fun of all the people that were pre-med. It was an interesting, clever, well-put-together set that had certain punchlines that he was trying to hit as he also controlled the energy of the room. I thought it was an absolutely fine job. There was also a second comedian who I recognized from Cambridge, Massachusetts, which we'll get back to, from doing open mic nights right outside the Harvard University Comedy Club that they got there. This guy also had a set, which I noticed was doing so much better. In fact, it was a set I commented on this podcast because of the nature of some of the racial and sexist implications of the joke. In order for you to find the joke funny, you have to hate a certain amount of people in the room. At the root, the root of that joke, you need to hate white people and men. And it was killing. He was crushing. When he did that joke at Harvard University, even the wackos there, they were not on the same ride. We were not on the same roller coaster. You haven't earned enough respect by making me laugh, realizing you're a good guy, for you to take it to this wild place. And I'm very happy that this guy is choosing to take his open mic night set on the road and do open mic nights across the country. I wish I had the money to do it, but you do find different things in different clubs, in different communities. It's how you get a sense of the pulse of society and how things are really moving. What the reality is for each individual inside each city is completely different because they're living with a whole bunch of different brainwashed people that think a certain way and act a certain way and do certain things, and that produces a different community and a different culture. So it was crushing here, this kid said. Which made me realize, oh, that's right. Social division, sexism, is something that is reinforced here. In fact, I would argue the heterosexual people are by far the minority in that town, and it was felt almost everywhere that I went. There was this air of feminism, but also, as I learned, as the sets continued, as I got to see more female comedians that I had ever seen in my entire life, at any one single open, probably collectively. Going to open mic nights my entire life, if you take all the women that I saw up to the 35 years before this, it was maybe equal to the amount of female comedians that I saw on stage at this open mic night, which was less open micy, less jokey. A lot more therapy, a lot more complaining, a lot more group think, a lot more I need support right now, a lot more depression on the edge, but that's fine. If you're going to find a way to get to a punchline and a joke, and here's the thing. I want to be very, very, very clear about this. It was alarming how every single comic on stage killed to every other table except for mine and my wife's. I mean, crushed. It was the funniest open mic night of all funny open mic nights. I think Rogan, Ari Shaffir, Tom Segura, Bert Kreischer should all take a visit to the Vermont Comedy Club for an open mic night because you guys might need to take some notes. These people may be onto comedy gold. I need to be as upfront as I possibly can about that because they were all crushing. I don't know I don't know if there was a punchline the whole night, but there was so much laughter and so much support that I wonder if these people even know what the art of stand-up comedy is. I don't know who they watch. I walked into the club and I see some of the headshots of people that I recognize, but it's all a bunch of news that I don't know. And I'm recognizing open mic people at comedy clubs across the country. I have fully invested so much of my time and energy into exploring this specifically niche community of society and the people that are doing it well and the people that are not doing it well. How do you have a whole wall of people that I've never heard of that play out this club? Who are these people? Joe List, I get it. Andrew Santino, he makes sense here, okay? Who the fuck are all these other people? And what are you in here. There was a woman who got on stage. She said that she had 2 kids, and she was in a marriage. And now the only thing that gets her off is watching gay guys have sex, and she goes to put the pee in, and then the autofill goes to poems.com, and she's like, no, that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for dirty men having sex with each other because I just want to see them let free, and I just don't want to be involved in it. She was losing her mind on stage. I guess I laughed a little bit because it was a mental breakdown and nothing but fucking rush, gay porn. Yes. Yes, of course it's the only thing you can get off to. Of course that's normal. What? What kind of sick and twisted world where that's the only thing that gets your jollies off, sweetheart? I am so thankful that you were saying this in the darkness of a comedy club because you should not be saying this in the light of public. These people are going to judge you. I'm not. I'm here supportive, all right? I'm here to support the artist. I think there is a punchline in there. I think what you need to do is go home and think about what comedy is and how to write a joke and structure one and then find a way to come in there with the gay stuff. But you did get some stuff off your chest. Just like I call them woman, I guess as a percentage, maybe it wasn't the most woman I've ever seen on one stage because a lot of them are going up as men. There was a woman who was in a relationship for 7 years with a man, and now she's just fully transitioned into being a man and some of the things she was expecting. Like I guess it makes your clit real large when you start taking this testosterone. I could tell that it was making the hair on the face and the arms grow, and I support this. Good for you. Good for you. And if you're an adult and you want to make these decisions and do this, I'm happy that there is a community for you guys to have such a happy existence in, because it certainly is supportive to some. So she is just coping, talking about all the things. Apparently there is when you start taking all these pills, because that's what you're doing, trying to become a different gender, you're taking a whole bunch of chemicals and introducing unnatural chemicals to your body to try and trick it into thinking it's something else in a way. And your mind's doing the same thing. And now that you're getting some of the chemicals that are occurring naturally through my body, they're coursing at all time at higher levels than most of the women in society. You're starting to understand what it's like to go through life having to control those chemicals and those urges, because now this woman is talking about how she is just 3 steps away from getting in a fight with everyone around her at all times, and she knows eventually she's going to get into a fight that she can't fucking handle, and someone's going to beat the shit out of her. Do you think the people in your community don't recognize that? Right? Do you think everybody else in your community doesn't know, like, okay, here comes Nick. Woo, right on the fucking edge. That's not a normal man either. That's not a normal thing to be able to walk around and do. Again, find the joke. There's a joke somewhere in here. I'm sure you can make it funny. But what I really hear is just these mental issues. Everyone just getting on stage and confessing them. I hated men so much that I had to become one. And now I get it. But you're still socially making them a pariah and fighting against them, even though you're trying to become them, Sophia. I am just so reminded of the beautiful name Sophia, and it means wisdom, right? Until you get to the bottom of that story. Do you guys know the bottom of that story? Sophia, that beautiful name, it stands for wisdom because Sophia was so smart. She went behind God's back, and she created a world without God, a horrible 3-dimensional material world that was just such an aberration from all of the beauty that God created, and they call it wisdom and Sophia. You're doing a horrible job pretending to be a man, and that is what you are expressly pretending to do, but you're never going to be able to do it like me because I went through puberty as a man. All right, and that is the balance that is so clear is out of whack inside that city. It's nuts. There were just so many depressed, suicidal people that were just out there talking about how bad the economy was and the political brainwashing. I didn't get so many of the jokes. They went right over my head because I don't watch the same news as these people. I don't know where they're getting their news, but they're all getting it from the same place because everybody got the references that were clued in there with the political cues. It was, someone got on stage and they said, I'm not a Trump fan, but... And then they were like, nah, I'm not a Trump fan. I'm going to 100% slam the door on that one because I don't even want to leave it a crack open. And went to roaring applause. That doesn't make sense to me because all of politics is theater. What I see is just a group of people that have been so insanely brainwashed into rooting for nothing but LGBT plus, social justice and communism. Because everyone was complaining they weren't given enough. Every time I went out to a meal, I hear people comparing what they have and what someone else has. Oh, it was almost every single time in every restaurant. Comparison. Everyone was just comparing what they didn't have, and everyone was saying the government should give us more. We don't get enough from the government. We don't get it. There should be more social programs. There should be somebody else paying for this. Oh, people pay for your whole fucking state. It's like 11 people. What the fuck do you think is going on? Maybe there was someone who cut off some funding that was coming in here, and that's why all of you guys are in such an economic crisis. Such a deep economic crisis that the rest of the world has been feeling for at least, I don't know, 1970s on its way down to crushing the American middle class. There is no more middle class. This life that you feel so fucking entitled to, if I came through here and I decided to just come over here and fucking knock a few of you people out with my fucking dick, I could. It's remarkable what they put up with in that city, the politeness. They have this thing called a Creemee. It's one of the most delightful, delicious desserts that I've ever had. It's soft serve ice cream. It's nothing spectacular, all right? I'm not fucking cracking fish open and pulling the eggs and extracting the eggs out of it and making some kind of extravagant chocolate dessert. It's a soft serve ice cream. But they definitely clean the machines and they use fresh ingredients. I have no idea how they make it taste so much like a beautiful Wendy's Frosty and a soft serve, like it's just, but also like a frap and like a milkshake all in one. It's the delicious experience. But they just got to be a little fuck you about it. They just got to be a little, So we're only going to have 4 flavors. We're going to have Thai sweet chili. We're going to have ginger ginseng. We're going to have mint fucking frabalistic cabadaloo and fucking jasmine tea. The fuck am I gonna... When people come into your town and they want ice, and even the people in line, the fucking line of fairies and princesses and different color hair and different gender, I couldn't tell what anybody looked like. But they were just like, oh, I guess we'll have sweet tea. I really wanted chocolate. It would be so nice to have chocolate or vanilla right now, but I guess I'm going to have fribalistic fucking Kalamazoo because that's all they have. There's no men in the entire society be like, fucking make a chocolate and vanilla so that we can make the kids happy. All right? The kids like chocolate. And, like, that's what we're all trying to get together here and live in some sort of fucking society. And you guys are just, there's no one to like, put your foot down and say no more of this shit. All right? These homeless people, if they don't have a fucking job, get them the fuck out of here. Social programs are ending. Start a career. All right? I don't know. Start one. Fucking... There's maple syrup everywhere. Every single one of you could work on a farm. Every single one of you with an art degree and a therapy thing who's not getting enough sun could work on a fucking farm. Every one of you could pick a fucking tomato, and you're going to be so much happier, and all of a sudden this depression is not going to be there. And all of a sudden you're going to be like, why do I like life so much? Because that's the way life works. You are inside. You're making jokes about... What? Oh, no one else has a nook, a cave on their couch that they just stay in all winter long and watch nothing but Netflix? No, I'm not socially programming myself like that. All right, I haven't seen whatever the thing is you're going to ask me if I saw, because I've been out doing shit and noticing all the things that are going on. And when I see something that I don't like, I'm trying to do my best in my own individual consciousness in my community to control that. So that if I'm lucky enough to magnetize myself with this amazing life that I have, I am going to create a culture. It's going to grow around me, and eventually it'll produce the current events that I want to see around me. But until then, I get to take a wild ride in other people's cities and see the current events that are happening in their cities and see what the hell would I do if I was here. Oh, I'd be out in these mountains, and I'd be out in these woods, and if I was wintertime, I'd be snowshoeing, and I'd certainly be taking advantage of all these unbelievable restaurants and recognizing that I live in truly one of the most beautiful places in the entire country. I would not be on my couch watching Netflix. Wait until I get some complaining about, I just can't afford Uber Eats, and if my parents just understood and paid for some of my medical bills. How many times I've heard this? They can't even afford therapy. They screwed me up. They should just entitlement. Complaints, and nobody doing anything about themselves, which is the opposite side of that coin, the balance that you need. The masculine and the feminine. The thing that you are so trying to recreate by becoming a version of it yourself is what many of these people truly need. Now, how does an open mic comedian... I am just so enthralled with this story because how does this whole city work? I mean, come on. Come on, people. You know me long enough. You know that that's not where the story ends, right? I could have just tied a bow right there. Ah! But that's not exactly how it works. How does the city exist? Many of the restaurants were controlled by the same restaurant group. Do your homework, okay? That buys from the same few farms. So there's only a few hands that control how that city operates, which means those people were coming in from out of town, and why? What type of mystical game is going on? What type of cult? What type of soldier-like reporting on the street do you have going on already operating inside the United States of America, working for people I don't know who don't report to anyone? Those networks are set up. I see what's happening to the city. One of the things that was just truly so sad is the amount of fear and scarcity that all of the people, many of them women that live inside that community, live inside of all the time, because there's no one able to pull from the true abundance to show them the way that is honestly almost so totally encapsulates their existence. I forget what I was going to say there. The sadness about the fear that they live in it's such a fragment of what exists everywhere else. I mean, if many of these people went to Boston, now it scared the living shit out of them. But what they would learn is homeless people in Boston and New York and Philadelphia and drug addicts are a lot different than the way that those people are acting on your church street in Burlington, Vermont. You have such a tiny amount of it, and you're so afraid. This woman said she hadn't been back to Burlington, Vermont in 12 years. Because she was so afraid of it. That is a mentality that has taken root. And a fear that so encapsulates your existence that you're afraid to go outside and do certain things. And if you were to go do it, you'll see, oh, it's not that bad. It's not what I once remembered, but the only constant is change, and things have changed. What can I do about it? There's nothing fucking I can do here at Breakheart Reservation in my community about what's going on up there. That's shit that you got to take care of. That's shit you have to balance out. There are so many people being taken advantage of because they've been lulled to sleep in this safe community that they believe is there to support them, when actually what's happening here is these people are being manipulated, maybe experimented on. What else do you call it? What else do you call that but an experiment? A community of people, like-minded individuals, choosing to individually live together and take certain chemicals and live a way of life countercultural to the way the species reproduces. Because I really think that is the key hinge there. countercultural to the way the species reproduces. There is an experiment going on. You are sitting inside of it. I know that I am, which is why I'm constantly reviewing my own surroundings, choosing the environment and trying to understand who may be manipulating the environment, because I know nothing is truly my own choice. I live in a duality where I have control and I have no control. E equals MC squared. The only time is now. Now is the only time. So if there's anything that's affecting me, if there's anything that's coming to mind, it has something to do with the now. And that hinge of species continuing is something that we as a humanity, hues of light manifesting in this universe, is something that we are going to have to choose whether we're going to want to continue down this path or we're going to choose a different one, because there's no judgment here. What I didn't like about that community is they did not respect me and my individual choices. They made me feel like I was not welcome to even just be a customer in many of the stores that they had. I didn't like that. But I still had an unbelievable time. It was one of the most peaceful, beautiful vacations I could ever have. So it is what it is. You win some and you lose some. But what I don't understand is why you're choosing to make it that way, or being manipulated into making it that way, or being lulled into, being talked into, being convinced into. Why was it not the healthiest community that I didn't? That's the thing. The food was so healthy, but none of the people were in shape. There was no clean mental health people that I saw walking around. How do those two things exist? Right? So these are the things that I think about as I'm exploring this duality, thinking about my own community, thinking about the control that I have, which is really an illusion to some degree. To some degree, that duality is something that I do have control over. And oh, yeah. Humanity is going to have an opportunity here at this crossroads to go in a different direction, so I try not to judge it. There will be people that are going to choose a path that means they don't reproduce in the same way that I do. And I'm still going to want to hang out with those people. I'm still going to want to laugh with those people. I hope we make jokes with those people. They're going to have fucking computers in their head, right? Others are going to be brainwashed by AI. Others are going to be fully reliant on ChatGPT, and their brains are going to degrade a bit. Others are going to stay away from these technological devices, and they're going to take a different evolutionary path. That's what happened in 2012 at CERN when they smashed two particles at the Hadron Collider into each other faster than the speed of light, something we hadn't done, as far as I know, ever on this Earth. It ripped the fabric of space-time. And now we all get to choose for ourselves. Slowly, these things will start being revealed to you. The Council of Nine, the 9 different spacecrafts you will see in your sky, should they reveal themselves to you. There will be way more than 9. Those are just aspects of the future that are coming, that you can see if you're able to get to the tallest mountain of the consciousness and take a look at time and what time truly is. It doesn't exist. It's now. It's energy. You are not one of the waves. You are the ocean. That is how I access all of this. Energy, frequency, vibration. All right, I think that was a wild enough walk through the streets of Burlington, Vermont, a beautiful city that I had an unbelievable time at. That comedy club gave me so many insights into the community and what was truly out of balance. The male-female, I think, is a key to understanding Burlington, Vermont. And I think even on my way out of town at that Ben & Jerry's factory, I don't remember many corporations way back in 1982 starting to make so many inroads with political organizations. So many political organizations, so many activism campaigns they've been a part of. Something they're so welcomely a part of. But they still use corn syrup in their ice cream. They're not a part of that farm healthy community that the rest of that Vermont is. So what other poison are they selling to you? What other poison lurks right there in front of your eyes? Right in front of your fucking face, too close for you to be able to see. Take back your consciousness. I love you. I'm out.